We're back. Yeah, we're
back.
We're chatting off the record here. Okay, so I see Andoni popping in there in the mirror. I just sent him the link. Hello. Club's here.
It's hard to get on calls sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard for me.
Oh, sorry for the late.
Hi.
Hi, hi.
That's okay. Yeah, we're all a little bit slow today.
Let's celebrate that.
Yeah, let's.
Slow, moving slow.
Okay, you guys, how are you feeling? How are you feeling, John? We had a little check-in with Michael. He's feeling great. He just got a massage.
Wow. I'm jealous right now. I have a Thai massage training this weekend and next weekend, so I'm not that jealous. But anyway, last night I didn't sleep, so now it's my 30 hours or something like that that I'm awake. But it was very productive night because I was working on a short film from Hatay, and somehow I found the words that I want to put on that video, and I wrote a powerful text. So I feel so happy and I feel so relaxed right now because the video was waiting like since 2 months. So yeah, I feel good and I feel relaxed.
Cool.
How about you?
Congratulations. Wow, it's so good to take something off your to-do list that's been pending for a long time. That's such a relief.
Yeah.
It's so bandwidth consuming to be like in the back of your head processing like the things that are undone. It's just good to smash them.
Thank you.
Great.
Hi, Andoni.
Hiya, how's everybody?
We're doing good. We can hear you, although I think something's yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Good?
Yes.
Better.
Fantastic.
How are
Sorry,
you?
I'm still setting up. I'm a little late, but
That-
all good.
That's okay. That's okay. We're like slowly taking the space here.
Yeah, we're all kind of in a slow Thursday mood. So this is how it is, and we're not fighting it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Give me 1 second while we finish setting up. I'll take you guys with me.
Yeah,
Just
please.
hope you don't mind the.
No, we want to go with you, Andoni.
I want to be with you everywhere. Does anybody have any like reflections from the last session? I wasn't super present, so I'm super curious to hear people's kind of synthesis or reactions to everything that you've been processing since Tuesday.
Great frameworks. I love how all my mind is starting to organize around just very basic things of how to go through a project. I'm loving that.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of the process is not complex, but it can feel very complicated when it's not broken down. It's like looking at a whole cake and wondering how you're going to eat it when you haven't thought of like, oh, bite, bite.
Let alone eat it. How did they make it? You know, that's how.
Yes.
That's exactly how I feel. Like you're looking at a cake and you're like, wow, like does that come like that? Is that a cake fruit and just sprouted out of a tree, or did somebody have to do some engineering behind it?
Yeah,
I
just
think
demystifying.
relieving to to see that it's iterations on iterations, and especially with something so big as setting your vision, setting your mission statement, setting your big why. It's gonna be the first run and the second run and 1 million runs after that, where you're gonna be defining it over and over again. And I think as we're gonna be going through the next steps, we have like 9 steps left. Even in today's session, it's really important to keep that in mind, and at the same time, be open to pivot or adjust certain things when it comes to the vision that you have. So yeah, it's definitely big, and it definitely takes iterations and adjustments. And I think that's the healthy approach to don't let yourself be overwhelmed by how big that is and how perfect it has to be. I'm speaking to myself. Sometimes I just want to create a perfect vision of what it's going to be, and it's somewhat romanticized, and I wanted to like have all the pieces for it to work. And you just have to like put it out there and take one step, and it's going to be different, and take another step, and it's already going to be different. So that's relieving in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a thing like in consulting, I remember a concept that they called BHAG. I don't know if anybody out here has heard it before. It's kind of big on scaling up consulting for companies. And it's an acronym for Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. And it starts by having like a very clear yet big vision, something that scares you, but also entices you and attracts you and makes the journey and all the efforts seem worthy or appear worthy until you get some results. So I really got a lot of depth from yesterday's vision canvas. And the canvas itself, I have never seen that. Like I remember when I started design thinking, like the traditional business canvas, and that was interesting. It really helped me when I was advising companies and startups and all to kind of help them understand themselves. And then I started to use it on myself. And it's been a while since I used this tool, but to see one community-based, and I think I saw it in Regen Week, not Regen Week, sorry, in Tribalize last year, that you guys put it in the stand, and I really didn't get a chance to look at it or understand it. And yesterday, kind of getting into it, and like I was amazed at what a good tool, how simple yet like important it is to be able to kind of map out everything around the project in a canvas like this, like the community culture canvas. Yeah, I love that. Is that something that you guys created, or is that already existing?
It's taken from Gustavo Rossetti's culture canvas, and it's kind of, we've repurposed it and made it specific to community building and design.
Wow, amazing. Kudos to that.
Yeah, it's a super cool exercise. I really enjoy seeing how people interact with it. We just had a workshop 2 days ago, and the project that we're visiting right now and working with Vitalia, and yeah, it was really fun. We didn't really have a lot of time, and so a canvas like that take weeks to be filled in, and it's no pressure for it to be done in a moment. I encourage you guys to put your thoughts in there. So it can be done for community land projects. It also can be done for businesses, families, groups of friends, and for us as a community of agents, future agents. It's also good as we're meeting. We're forming our little container. We're going to be communicating in different forms throughout the time. So I think it's cool to get to know each other in that way and see based on what our purpose is, what are the practices that reflect that. So yeah, feel free to add your thoughts in there. It can be either either now briefly or after. Thank you, Michael, for going in there yesterday and adding your approach to it. I really enjoyed that. Okay, cool. So we shared a little bit about our reflections from the last session. We were talking about the big why. We were talking about the importance of defining your vision clearly. We went through a quick case study, a role-playing exercise. Any other reflections that you guys have after Tuesday that were evolving, emerging during the workshop or after? I'm interested, Michael, you're creating your community with your partner, and so it's really exciting to see you stepping into that process and sharing your thoughts on something that you've already put a lot of thought into. Anything that was like an aha moment for you?
Well, I was really enjoying it. I'm definitely going to be going through it with my wife and seeing what comes out of this. I enjoyed the process. Like the sequential nature of which question you ask in the order of it. Yeah, I was just, I think, like, oh, this is a pleasurable way to dig into and excavate what it is that you're trying to communicate. And I like the iterative process because the vision can seem so big. And you never want it to get in the way of getting started. But it's also nice to return to.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think it makes it more digestible to see a high level process in 10 steps and then have it,
Yes.
expanding, and then each of the questions have their own exercise and their own process to it, which makes it, a little bit easier. And so we've been talking about, okay, what do we want for you guys to feel confident in after we finish these online classes? And so the Miro board is great and it's interactive, and it's letting us jam together in there. I really enjoy that. Thank you for setting that culture, Nicole. I love the Miro board. This is super fun, and like see your friends just like wiggling their little arrows in there. And so at the same time, it would be hard for you guys to, when you're consulting a project, talking to a project, go to a Miro board and go through all these exercises. For that purpose, we have the Community Alchemy Guide, which is a lot of resources and a lot of good stuff in there. I don't know if you see my screen that I'm sharing. I put the alchemy guide in here. You cannot really view it here, but when you click on it, you can open it. And so you have a link to that there. You also have a link to the Community Alchemy Guide in your agent portal. So this is where the good stuff is. And a synthesis of all these questions that you can see there, you can find in the agent workbook. So we have the high level one, and we just created a custom workbook for all of you. So I think it will be a valuable exercise for all of you individually to take your dream community. For you, Michael, that will be Wild Garden. This is the process that you're already undergoing.
Or it could be the urban community that you're going to be working on in these next months. I see you're super excited about it. Thank you for sharing that document with me from them.
Yeah.
We're all excited to hear updates as you're like in live doing this, and all of this carries over. Like maybe you won't be buying land or building structures, which is cool. You get to focus on the human fiber. And all of this is practical in that case as well.
The urban community, I don't think I caught it last time. Maybe it was something that emerged from the breakout room that I wasn't a part of. That's really exciting. I'm excited to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, happy to share. It's the community that we're putting together, helping to cultivate in Port Hope, just the township just moved to, small heritage town, and we're getting together with a community hub, which is like a holistic health, wellness, and entertainment now center. They've just opened up like a social room with like a kitchen and a commercial kitchen in the back, and then
Community
a
clubhouse.
stage,
That's the start of
bar, and
the
seating.
clubhouse.
We're gonna be creating stuff there, and so we're working on a collaboration with them right now.
Cool. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, so that could be a cool example, since the vision for a wild garden is a little bit more defined, and so maybe that could be a cool exercise. So it is what you wish, right? It can be your dream community, something that you're already planning, or maybe you will start planning it now. It also might be a project that you're passionate about that has a different vision holder, and so you want to go through the process of the 10 steps and the additional questions on that example. So to make it a little bit more grounded and make it a little bit more real, we would like to start filling in the custom workbook for all of you guys. So last week we had honed the vision. Would love for you guys to go in there and fill in the questions that you can see there. It's like a pretty simple process. Let me just open it. And let's look at it. Okay, this is huge. I cannot. Oh, I changed it. Hey, baby, I didn't see you there. This is huge. Okay, so if you go to this, Drive link, you have the named workbooks for all of you. And once you enter it, this is yours, Gem. You can see the table of contents, the sections that we're going to be going through on your community vision. This is what we did last week. And this week, we have recruit your ideal members. And so all of these are also linked to the Community Alchemy Guide resources. And when you scroll down, you see section 0, which these are just like technical questions about the name and status and country, location, which might not be clear for some of you yet. And then you have specific questions that you probably will be able to answer after finishing the workshop. And so we would love for you guys to start filling in the workbook for yourself. And then thinking about your career as a regenerative neighborhood agent, this is also the process that you're going to go through with a vision holder. And so for you guys to not wonder, oh, there was something in the mirror that happened, it was cool, and where can I find it? This is the simplified process. And so these questions also respond one-to-one to the questions on the Tribes platform when you onboard the neighborhood. And so today we're going to be going through the section 2, recruit your ideal members. The exercises that we have in the Miro board respond one-to-one to these questions. So it should be an easy process for you guys to go through. And after finishing all the 10 steps, you basically have a plan for your dream community or any community that you chose as an example for that. Cool.
And then the beautiful part of the next step to this, integrating with the ecosystem we're creating, is these questions will be mapped to the online form and onboarding process for regenerative neighborhoods on the Tribes platform. So once these questions are filled in and explored with either the client you're consulting or with the project that you're doing now for yourself, you will be able to easily onboard this to the Tribes platform and have pretty much a landing page for this community land project that is not just public and displaying information, but also interactable. So people will be able to ask questions and onboard and engage with the communities that get onboarded through the Tribes platform. So this is kind of how all the tools work together, from the guide to the agent program to the Tribes platform, getting projects exposure and helping them share the important information they need to, which easily gets overlooked or not even thought of in the worst case.
Right. And this is also a place where you can keep your notes, right? Miro might seem like not the best spot because this is public for everybody. And so
We're gonna make a folder with everyone's workbook.
yes, and it's there. So you guys can access your custom workbook in there. I'm gonna like navigate you again. So it's here. Find your custom agent workbook. You can click this link and it opens the Drive link with your names. And so you can keep your notes there. You can answer the questions for the example of the community that you're going to be going through the process of 10 steps with.
Where's the link for their folder? in
Are you in the mirror?
It's in the portal?
Yeah, it's in the portal. Agent workbooks.
Agent workbooks drive, okay, cool.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, recruit your members. It's a really important step. Nicole did a really cool survey of what are the biggest needs and requests from vision holders to make their community successful, and the number one answer was finding aligned community members. So this step is really important and really combined with the vision that you guys set last week for your communities. Do you have an estimate number of people that you would like to live with, that you would like to create a community for? I would like to like maybe popcorn style, different reflections, different thoughts. Anybody think about it?
Anthony here.
Well, I know there's that 150 number that maximum comfortable community size or human group size.
Yeah, it's
There it is. Mr. Dunbar. However, I feel like smaller and at least to start would be more comfortable than to jump into a pool of 150 people.
So that
30
number,
or 40 people is probably
that number is you know, kind of a range. It can be less than that, it can be more of that. That number really explains kind of the metrics are that you have enough people, that you have different perspectives and different skill sets, while still being small enough that you can have the human interactions and personal relationships needed to feel close to everybody. That's just the kind of breakdown of that. So the number really ranges.
Yeah, there are different thoughts on that. It's he's been fought by different people to reduce it to 80, even up to 250. It obviously is it can vary based on the group of people and what you're seeking. So if you guys are all in the Miro, I would love for you to share like an estimate number of people that you imagine yourself living with happily.
See.
Any of you want to share why? What do you consider when you think about this number?
For me, it's a lot about having to manage other people's desires, potential conflicts. You start to get up into like higher and higher numbers, and you become anonymous because you simply can't know everyone or can't maintain quality relationships with everyone. So it's almost easier to have like a feeling of cohesion for me. And like I wrote like 50 close relationships or 250 total people, or just a small community of like 50 to 100 people where like everyone knows everyone. Simply because it's more agile. Like you can make decisions together. Nobody is like unhappy with a decision because it's easier to address the needs of a small group than for me personally, what I've seen like to address the needs of a large group. And in that sense, then you start to have to break down and like cluster and like that's that type of people, and this is this neighborhood, and those are those people. And then it like seems like divisions are natural, but at that point inevitable. So it kind of loses the cohesiveness for me emotionally of community.
Yeah, wow. This question I've never asked it. I've never asked it to myself before, and it's so important. I come from Mexico City, which is a city of 21 million inhabitants, and it's a community. Like it really is, because for people that have grown up, lived there, like in big cities, you make friends everywhere. You kind of end up having roots all along the city, and it really feels to me like I have a community that's spread around. And I mean, it's not, I don't know about 21 million, of course, but I definitely see the scale. And then I moved to Tulum, which is a 70,000 resident community around. So the scale was like significantly smaller, and I realized Dunbar's principle of how like these, even though the scale is drastically different, and I do appreciate the differences, I realized how my community sensitivity, like my sense of community, was still the same. Like I feel I have as much a community in Mexico as I have in Tulum, because it's probably 150 people that I would, yeah, interact with and feel. So it definitely makes a lot of sense. But now in the town that I'm in, which is 1 hour away from London, it's a little bit over 40,000 residents, so it's even smaller than Tulum. It's not even that big, and I feel also a very tightly knit community. So it's made me think that, to me, like the core community, the people that I wanna kind of see and bump into every day would not exceed 50. And I would feel very content if that were undiluted, But on the other side, I really appreciate big communities because of how diverse and how surprising they can be, and how at a certain scale, as long as you have a minimum set of things, which I believe that is essentially government, as long as you have some government on the outside, I don't mean self-government, there's going to be some sort of support that a big community kind of, even though it's bigger than 150, it self organizes and it becomes more autonomous the bigger it gets, because obviously the distribution of labors and responsibilities. So I definitely see a number in the thousands, or at least 1,000 less, as a fluctuating community of especially in bigger developments. Like I'm looking at one that has 150 plots of land, and once you populate it, between the people living in it, staying in it, coming through it, having a day pass on it or whatever, it's going to be about 1,000. And I do feel like it's a good, like, I really like that as a manageable number because it doesn't seem as daunting. And the only exercise I've done at a similar scale was in my university in Mexico had like 2,500 students, and I was in the student union, so I kind of had to see about a lot of things going on. And likewise, my vision, my horizon never went beyond 150 people. You know, like even though we were 2,500 students, I never really had that number, that weight on my mind. It always felt like I only had to deal with 150 students max, you know. But it was nice and it was very diverse, and I really appreciate how when you have a bigger number, you have more diversity in it, and what they bring into a table, and how amazing a good organized group can make things happen, and how they resonate despite being a larger audience or a larger number of people, a larger community. Uh, the essence usually, when it's done well, stays and replicates, and it doesn't get diluted. You kind of get that same vibe out of everybody. So if I had to go really big, I would think of no more than 5,000 would be my, like, larger than that, and I should run for mayor and or something, because it wouldn't feel at a manageable scale.
I agree with that. I think sometimes when you think about containers like cities, it's quite big. I wouldn't necessarily consider that a community, and this is why a lot of us feel really lonely in urban settings, because having a bigger amount of people, it doesn't necessarily create the same level of intimacy. It also reduces the level of safety that we feel. And so we're now really that open to create relationships. So I really like city life. I really connect with urban life, and I see myself living in a city. At the same time, it's really important to form communities of smaller scale within these bigger settings. So there's nothing wrong with big conglomerations. At the same time, the actual community that you are describing, Andoni, when you say like 50 people that you say, you see yourself forming like a close community with, it's a number for you. For me, that would be like 150, 200 people, and people that are coming for a short period of time. I think it's also an important a metric to serve inspiration and have like the fresh perspective from people outside of the circle that come in and also influence the community in some way. But yeah, I posted a link in here. It's a micro solidarity concept. I don't know if any of you is familiar with that. It talks about the bubbles of people and how they start from individual to partnerships to bigger groups of people, and to 150 is also a number of that they describe that is more or less estimate to give you enough freshness in relationships, at the same time enough intimacy and safety. And so I really like this resource. You can check it out a little bit later to see that. And from these bubbles of people that have established the safety and intimacy, you can form bigger groups that interact with each other in any way possible. And so this is how I see cities being structured in a conscious way. I'm really excited about your project, Michael. I definitely want to hear a little bit more about that. Jem, Vivo, anything that you want to share about the number of people and your reflections?
When I see when I see the question, I just realized that I was concerned about the governments and the decision-taking processes. So that's why I just decided to put a small number, like 15 to 25. But at the same time, like there should be a crowd, you know, so that's why there should be some different types of members, let's say short-term members, long-term members, or I don't know, like this volunteer system. So it's flexible, but I think for me, if everyone has the same rights in the decision-making process, I will prefer a small number.
Okay, that's fair. Vivo, you want to share before we move on?
Hear me all right, because my connection once again is shitty.
I can hear you well.
Can you hear me at all? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay, I couldn't hear you. Well, for now, I think I'm still really trying to find out with how many people I would want to live. If I think about it now and think about settling down and like or starting a community, when I do want to settle, I think my ideal would be like 5, 6 families. So maybe like 25 to 30 people, maybe a bit more, including kids. Just because I like the familiarity and really the tightly close-knit friendships that you get when you're in a smaller community. But I have yet to experience like bigger communities. So I'm really excited to see like explore more of those. And I have a friend in Australia who lives in small communities, but they have like the local networks that we sometimes mention and talk about, where more people get together, and then you're not living with them on one property, but there's a network of communities that are close by, and they get together and also do social things, throw parties, which of course, if you live in a really small community, which only entails like a couple families, then that kind of falls short. So yeah, I guess I still haven't made my mind up.
Yeah, I think it can vary for different communities, and if you're thinking about a long-term permanent place to live, it probably would be a bigger number to have enough diversity and relationships. And when we talk about shorter experiences like pop-up cities, which is a community as well, I think people benefit more from having less interactions, and then be able to go deeper with individuals rather than constantly getting to know each other on like a surface level. Okay, cool, you guys. That's cool. I'm actually really happy that that you shared. I think that was you, Andoni, that you never asked yourself this question, and that's true. This is really something that we think of before we dive into the community creation process. So that's really cool, and possibly some vision holders never thought about it either. If you want to read a little bit more about that, here I put the Community Alchemy guide link. It's going to take you directly to, let's open it, directly to the second section of the guide. There's a lot of awesome resources there. Nicole, thank you so much for posting all of that and sharing all the goodies that you find as you're doing your research. I don't know why it's not opening for me. My mirror is going a little bit crazy. And so when you consider a number of people, it's good to think about the lower limit of people. What is the least amount of humans that I want on my property to consider it a proper community based on my vision and based on my mission statement? And then what is the upper limit? And here you probably will think about the infrastructure capacity or the planned land size that you maybe already have or you're going to buy. So it's good to put that window. It probably will vary as people move in and move out of the community, but it's something important to consider. And the Dunbar number, how many of you were familiar with that Dunbar concept before? Yeah, you, Michael.
Something that's coming up is accounting for the difference between like the participatory members of a community and the ones that just come in to like receive or join in, like, you know, receive like smaller services or events or practices that the community, you know, creates itself. And then I think considering it from those two different perspectives, you can have a clearer vision of like what number can be attached to those type of members. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of that for like the purposes of like this wellness entertainment growth hub in a town, because there's going to be a core membership of like people that create and work and shape the space and come in and contribute their energy, and then others that come to receive and experience what the community, the core puts on and offers, and thus becomes part of the community because they are interacting with each other, you know, semi-regularly.
Definitely, that's a great thought. Actually, a little bit of, above that, we have types of community members. And so we have co-founders, community members, investors, and shorter community members and participants. And I think it's valuable to divide the community members into the ones that are, in a way, torch holders. And so they create the structure. And then you have other community members that are more... I don't want to use the word consumer, because the idea of the community is that everybody co-creates it in some way. Obviously, there will be personalities and people that are taking on a little bit more responsibility. So I'm going to add a note next to it, next to community members, like creators, and how would we call the other group that is creators and more
So if it's not
Receivers.
consumer, I remember finding this term and I really liked it, which is prosumer. Someone that not just takes from, but also gives to. You know, it creates, it produces as much as it consumes. And I think that would be a better trait or a better description for someone that I imagine in a regenerative community.
What is the name that you use? What is the term?
Prosumer. And I didn't just make it up. There are some amazing books that have been written on the subject. Yeah.
Okay, can you type it in here? I am not really sure how to spell that.
Yep.
It's
exactly.
here.
It's spelled like that.
Prosumer. Okay. Cool. Okay, nice. So these are the things that should be considered based on your vision and your intention. What are the key roles that you need in your community? And some people will look for co-founders. It can be a different number of people. We just divided the community members into the more co-creative part and the more participatory member, which both of them are members that will hold different levels of responsibility. We also have investors and short-term community members and participants. Feel free to add notes next to it. I like us adding different sticky notes next to different terms as we're coming up with ideas. Anything, Nicole, that you want to share about that part? This resource here is extracted from the Community Alchemy Guide. You can access it above and read a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think the most helpful thing when considering the types of community members is first, in the beginning, your going to want to favor co-founders and investors who are really aligned. Those are the two types of community members that early on you should focus on. I think sometimes people, like before they even have a community of long-term individuals, they try to invite people to participate in events and be prosumers on site. Sometimes it works to help, like, for example, it's like an open house. You invite people and they get to like, oh, experience it a little bit, and that can lead to someone becoming a community member. But it's not as likely that that could lead to someone being a co-founder. So focusing more on the processes of finding really aligned people who are also at the stage of their life where they're actually ready to commit. I've been rereading Creating a Life Together, which is a really popular guide on creating intentional communities. It's one of the more famous ones. And, you know, one of the things that it cautions against is don't foster hope in people that don't actually have the resources or aren't ready at whatever stage of their life they're at, aren't ready to join your community at the stage that it's at. Like if you're trying to sell to like a community member or a short-term community member participant, when what you really need is like a co-founder or an investor, you might cause like a disillusioned feeling in people that are like, oh, like it's not ready, or oh, I want to be part of that community, but it's expensive and I can't stay there because there's just land and they're selling land right now, or houses that are too expensive for that person. So that's one of the cautionary tales, just about understanding which type of community member to prioritize. So that's the first one. And then kind of the way we explored it in the previous exercise, how big do you want your community to be? We started to sort of break it down, like, oh, I would like, you know, about this many people of, you know, short-term members and long-term members, but really breaking it down and be like, okay, how many people, and we sort of get into this later, but how many people do I need fulfilling important roles? How many can be long-term residents that don't really participate actively, but like, you know, feed the community, like, you know, pay the bills? Like, how much do I want of each member type? And prioritizing the ones that will help you at the early stages.
Definitely. And I think based on the specific focus of your neighborhood, you need to identify the key roles that are needed, and starting with co-founders, and also who are the people that are essential in order for my neighborhood to work. I put a couple of examples in here, just so we have a reflection of what we just discussed. For example, a senior retirement neighborhood. It's not only about the size of a project, it's more about the proportion of the people. And so the key roles that you can identify is, as an example, at least one qualified caretaker for 3 seniors and at least one doctor for 10 seniors. This is something that you could consider if you were thinking about creating a neighborhood of that kind. And with a startup accelerator neighborhood, obviously the key demographic for you, the people that you are speaking to, are the startup founders and employees, and it probably will be a bigger portion of your community. And some other things to consider when thinking about the member demographics is gender, the balance between the genders. I'm curious to know, what are your thoughts on that? The age, it will be an intergenerational community. Will it be accommodating for people with families? The professional background, right, to fill in the key roles that you need, and personality archetype. This is a little bit more in depth, but also something really important to consider. If you have a community with 100% ENTJs, it might end up in a mass murder, and this is not what you want. So
Or they take over the world.
or they take over the world and then kill everybody else. No, just joking, but it's.
What did you say? EMT days?
ENTJ, it's based on Myers-Briggs breakdown of personality types. this is that. What is it? Commander. Yeah. So yeah, something to consider. That's an extreme one. Right. So important things to consider: key roles and the demographic balance when it comes to age and gender. And yeah, interested to know your thoughts, guys, on that topic. What kind of neighborhood would you like to create? Is it important for you to have the balance in genders and the balance in age? And why is it?
Yeah, you know, I've seen a little bit of how sometimes we can have very like distorted expectations of things, and I kind of see or more than see, I think that a trend that happens is how communities self-balance when the time comes. So sometimes I fear being too exact or being too square and saying like, oh, well, gender parity needs to be 50-50 because this, or maybe we're gonna do a, like positive reinforcement for gender reinforcement. So we'll try to have more women so that it overcompensates for the lack of participation that is usual in certain projects and stuff. But I feel like there's an invisible hand, like in economics, that will just balance things out and give out the real balance of genders, of people, of who takes a role naturally more than synthetically by our expectation or by our design. And I don't know if in that experience, have you seen that you kind of need to keep to a number and be like, oh no, like for example, a lot of congresses and parliaments today, or companies, they demand a gender parity. So maybe you would have wanted to hire someone, but you look at their gender first before looking at whoever it is they are. And I would like to avoid that in the community creation process that I give. So what are some alternatives to it? How should we go about it without being either too square or too rigid on it?
I can definitely see that. I can see I added a note here on the other hand, being mindful of not over strategizing. And so I can see that it's really hard to assume and then maybe kill the organic movement that emerges in your community. And it's also really challenging to recruit your ideal members when you're like being very specific about the amount of men and amount of women. I think high level, it's something to be mindful of. My personal outlook on that is I probably wouldn't choose to live in a place where this maybe only 10% of women, just because I do appreciate having these relationships and having the balance and energies that the feminine brings. And so I think also there's a lot of voices that say it feels safer in a place like that to raise your family, right? And so there's a couple of different opinions that I encountered, and so yeah, I would love for all of you guys to fill in why is it important, and maybe what Andoni mentioned, why is it why should we consider maybe leaving a little bit more freedom in this strategy? Anybody else has thoughts? You can dump it in the sticky notes.
Yeah, I think the idea here is not to create like quotas, but to be mindful of how you treat gender when accepting community members or when screening for community members. This can come in various like selection processes, you know, as you're working with like, okay, we have our initial founding group of members. We have about 7 to 12 people that are coming together to create this. And gender is just one example of diversity, but it's something that you can look at. Oh, it's like, okay, when we're accepting someone, do we we might evaluate their gender. We might also evaluate their like skills, like the danger, of course, is like associating certain skills with a certain gender before you have the chance to actually understand that person's skills and background. So that's part of it. But for example, in the case that you're looking for a carpenter and you have 2 equally qualified humans and of different genders, but you have, for example, a lot less women, you might be more inclined to accept the female carpenter simply because it would help balance out your ratios and because they're equally skilled. That's just, I guess, like part of managing community experience, where you can make decisions at your own discretion. Like there's no ideal way to do it, but at your own discretion, like, okay, here's how we keep like the demographics of the community really balanced, because we know that diversity in all ways like just makes the experience more richer. It provides neurodiversity. It provides like a more balanced relationship, as Sonia shared. Like as a woman, she feels more comfortable when there's also other women to which she can have a unique female relationship too. So that's just one example of like the positives of it, but obviously not being indiscriminate and solely basing on gender or other demographics if the person is just genuinely not a good fit for the community. But these are just things to like consider, like, okay, about how much of each of these types of people am I looking for? Because it could be totally your choice to have, for example, a startup community focused on AI coding and innovation, and you have this like really close, tight-knit group of like all male startup founders. They might get a little bored after a while, but that can be part of your community. That can be part of like your co-living situation, because like communities can come in all shapes and sizes. So you can be building like a co-living situation for male entrepreneurs, for example, and in an urban setting, and screen like basically, okay, we want this more of like a brotherly environment without the distraction or potential like conflicts that could come with having like someone of another gender present, and then that's a choice that you make. So it's not hard and fast rule. It's just making those decisions that make sense for the type of community that you're going to build. So that's why we lay it out as something to consider.
Definitely. And I think it's also a really important step to consider and put some thought into, and again, in iterations, to not make it overwhelming, lay it out the first time, and then maybe do more research about like how different demographics can contribute to the community. And then in next steps, we're going to be talking about marketing 2 weeks, 1 week from now. And so how do we attract these members is by speaking to this specific demographic. So it's I think it's really important to lay it out. Yes, Andoni.
I was wondering if in your experience and what you guys know, because I see this as something very applicable in a consulting environment, as a Regen agent, if there are any principles or formulas that research has, like both research and experience has validated before, as in, for example, if you have more women than men, then conflict levels are gonna be lower, or if you have younger than older, maybe your productivity is gonna be higher, or like having some sort of ideas around demographics, so that when we are, for ourselves and for others, helping them craft what their demographic is, we can inform it with some of these pointers or principles. Like you always want to have at least some sort of gender parity so that it keeps to it. And I'm sure there's some demographic studies before, and I'm gonna for sure trying to find something, but that we can distill and just keep in mind, kind of like knowing how to turn the knob which way so that we can make a community that fits the demographic that we want, or how we can have a demographic that supports the community that we want.
I think that's a really interesting question. And I want to look into this further actually, because I'm not currently aware of like, these are the ideal statistics. The only research that I know comes from primatology, studying like animal groups, which might be just as informative because it speaks to our animal nature. But yeah, having certain amount of like specifically like female presence does decrease conflict and typically improves like mediation circumstances. Just like higher levels of empathy in women typically ensures a more like calm conflict mediation process. Typically, it's not a rule. You might have someone who like makes it worse because they individually, personally suck at communication, which is a completely different thing that you can screen for. You can screen for someone's background in communication and or provide them with like conflict mediation and communication training, which is something that we mentioned in the guide. Different types of training that many communities have like undergone as a group, or they like screen for people who have or require people to complete certain trainings before they consider them for their group, because they know these techniques work for us when it comes to conflict management. If you're skilled, for example, in nonviolent communication, you're more likely to be a positive person to be around because you have the maturity to communicate and resolve things that bother you. So that's interesting. I'll make a note of that so that we can look into that.
Yeah, I think it's like so many things that you can consider, right? And again, gender is one of these, and then age is another one. And so there's like a risk of over generalizing certain groups of people and how they can affect the community and the broader escape. There are definitely things that you can observe and that don't look at age or gender, like maybe your requirement for your long-term permanent community will be to have members joining that already lived in an intentional community. So then it provides you with the certainty that they already know how to live with other people rather than live a strictly individualistic lifestyle. So it's part of that. Maybe you can make it part of your onboarding process or your screening process where you require them to live on site for some time, or maybe this is something that you just want them to have as an experience in their life. Which is I think it makes it more grounded for us to have these conversations based on specific examples and talk about how they affected the community. So again, there's so much to consider when it comes to member demographics. It can be literally anything based on what is really important to you and what you observe that works. And so I would be interested as well to maybe have a spot where we share these thoughts about that. This is where like the place for that would be the Community Alchemy guide. And so if you guys find any resources on that, please put it in there with like your notes on how it affects the community. So we have a couple of examples. We have 3 examples of communities that we connected with that the demographic may be not defining it well or not attracting the right members for the balance that you seek. Caused a challenge. We talked about Eggshell 2 classes ago. Michael, you visited Eggshell as well. And so the main challenge and something that we came and support with was that the permanent members were about 20% of the community, and then transition and short-term members were the other 80. And so it caused a disbalance and like the people that are committed and also familiar with the agreements of the community and its values. And so the solution to that would be to make it a little bit more balanced, to have enough torch holders and people that call the place their home versus the people that just come for a couple of days or a week. And this is very felt in the overall energy of the community. It was kind of all over the place at times for that very reason. So thinking about that beforehand is definitely important. And maybe if you only think about the short-term member community, you have to implement some strategies to merge that gap. And so we have two other examples of Nucleum. Nicole, do you want to share about Nucleum Tree?
Yeah, so this is another project in the Yucatan that we've worked with slightly. And when I was one time when I was just chatting and interviewing the project owners, they were so shocked that they like not just once, okay, like multiple times attracted people that were looking for like to join a cult. And they were like, that is not what we are. That is like not what we're trying to do. And they really, and now they actually like bold and underline it in their community onboarding. Like, this is not that. Don't come here if you're looking to be told what to do by a certain leader. Like, it's not what we're looking for. They're mostly building like a family co-housing sustainable development in the jungle with like chickens and agriculture and, you know, just like houses. Basically, they call themselves a regenerative neighborhood because we've worked with them and they adopted our term because literally that, like sustainable homes distributed within the jungle. They've sold a few and they're just wanting like an intentional it's like built by a couple. One of them is the man is American and the woman is Mexican, and they're just, you know, building this because they want an alternative place to live. And they also, I think by the pandemic, we're really scared by how fragile the global systems are. So they wanted to build like a more resilient place that they could live and then also live in close relationship with others. But they were not attracting the right people at first, and they had some issues. So from that, they like refined a couple of documents that they share with people ahead of time. They refined like how they interact with people when they're, you know, interested, when they get contacted with people being interested in their project. They now navigate it in a certain way based on their experiences of having people approach them wanting something that was not what they were offering. So that's like one lesson in terms of like, sometimes our language is not clear enough about what we're really offering. Like, for example, you could be like, I'm building this community in the jungle. And some people think it's like, you know, we're all going to be barefoot and sit around a fire. And it's like, oh no, actually we're going to be, you know, working on projects and there will be holistic dance and health, you know, activities, but it's, you know, it's not a commune. You don't have to give up all your stuff. So being very clear in language, which is a natural continuity of all the exercises in the guide that help hone the vision. A lot of it is about translating that and being super clear about what it is, so that you don't end up in situations like that. Thoughts on that?
What's on quotes?
I'm super curious how do you determine someone's looking to join a cult? Like, what is it that they're really looking for?
That's a tricky one. And I think this in the space of eco villages and intentional neighborhoods, there's a lot of that association with it being a code and horror stories of a leader taking over and like turning a place into a complete mess. And so I think maybe people are being mindful of that. It's hard to know, but it's really important to respond to these requests and like being a little bit more clear with the languaging and look into your branding and marketing strategy and see what are the things that may be associated with it being culty in some way. Another example that comes to my mind, we're right now in Roatan, Honduras, working with a project, and there's a lot of accusations for it being neo-colonialist. And so this is what you can see online from people, and it's not really true. There's no sentiment of that in the local community. At the same time, it's important to implement strategies when we come to a foreign land and we create our new society, to make sure that we involve enough local community in our demographic, right? So I can see them setting up a goal or an estimate of, we want to have at least 50% of Hondurans in our community, just to ensure that there's enough integration with the people that came and the people that already lived here. So that's just another example that you can think of. It doesn't have to be that, but these are all things to consider based on what the vision of your project is and where are you creating it.
This is also part of in the consulting aspect of helping people realize how to build their membership, basically body of membership, is that and we have tools for this in the guide as well. You guide them through an analysis of their stakeholders, like all of the stakeholders, for everything from like local community groups to local people to like the nature landscape and geographical features. Like all of these, when we're talking about regenerative development, are part of the stakeholders. So we have some exercises and some guides around how to lead them through analyzing that, like who are the people that my community impacts and who do I want to involve, and what are like my blind spots around people that, if I don't involve them, yeah, there is one, it threatens your integrity just on principle, even if no one knows about you or knows about your project, but they hear about you and they say like, oh, like that's this person, and they're creating a cult, or they're creating a neo-colonial settlement, or like they're just like a bunch of hippies doing this. It mitigates that. Like these types of processes and analyzing everything that every person and every being that your project will impact is part of the whole systems design necessary to create a truly regenerative project. And so, and I'll go ahead.
On that sense, I feel like once we develop this further, we'll be able to have like a mathematical equation for demographics, where we can kind of have different variables that we can input and see a result of what is the different degrees, or how well balanced the demographics of a community is. Like this sounds like we can make a recipe sort of like equation for us to kind of make a calculator, and whenever we have a community in front of us, we can like not only calculate the degree of harmony that demographic brings to a community, but also see if we have green or red numbers in different areas, like the ones that we mentioned before, very basic but very important: gender, age, skills, residency, nationality, etc., so that when we approach a project, we know what harmony looks like in a demographic.
Okay, you guys, let's have a bio break. Let's stretch. Let's stand up. Eat something if you're hungry. I'm gonna put a little bit of music on.
Bio break.
Back in 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
What's up, Oscar? Ivan. What's new with the platform? I don't know if you can hear me.
Hello. Hello. over here. We're coming back. Nicole's grabbing a bite. Who makes you happy? Who makes me happy as well?
I love cashews.
Okay. Okay. Are we back? We're gonna do an exercise now. Again, based on your dream community, the community you're building, or maybe the community that you're interested in. And so the whole process of 10 steps and the 10 calls that we're on the second one right now. We would like for you guys to go through the workbook flow that's based on the Community Alchemy guide and fill in the questions so we can end up with a plan for the example community that you're going to be taking on. I'm going to share my screen and let's open the workbook so we can get familiar with it. I'm going to open Andoni's workbook. And so all of you have the same questions that you can see in the alchemy guide outlined there. So we went through the section 1. Would love for you guys to fill it in for the community that you're taking as an example. Based on the last workshop, you can answer them, like what is the mission statement of your neighborhood? What are the goals? What is the intention of the neighborhood? And we're on section 2. So we were talking about how big you want your community to be, what is the member demographic, all of the things that you were thinking about now. I would love for you to put it in there. You can also keep your notes in here. And so we're going to do the exercise in the Miro, and you can put these thoughts in there later, and then define it, refine it, and have it as your plan for how to recruit your ideal members. And so all of the resources from the Community Alchemy Guide are linked to the workbook. And so if you need a little bit more support on how to answer a specific question, you can go in there and read a little bit more. Okay, you guys, so we're back in the Miro. How comfortable are you feeling with the process? All of you will have your custom workbook, and so you can keep your notes in there and all the answers to the major questions. Cool. Okay, so now we're gonna go through an exercise. Maybe you, Oscar, wanna because you put some examples in here. We discussed your community demographic. We divided it into key roles. What key roles are you seeking to fill in your community? And again, these are just examples here, like 20% of the community needs to be medical professionals, if you're thinking about medical research community, for example. Or it's a permaculture community. Are you going to be hosting workshops as well as maintaining the garden? So you need at least 5 permaculturists staying permanently. These are the key roles that you're probably going to be filling in the first place, and during the screening process and during the recruitment process. This is a very important lens for you to take. And then demographic balance, right? We discussed gender is just one of them. Age is another one. Where you're coming from, it can be another one. So anything that you can think of that is important for your community. So let's just go through the process for. I'm going to do it for mine. What would you like to see in your community? You have sticky notes on the right side that you can take. Cool. Oscar, men, 50 women, and multi-generational. Yeah, for me, definitely a balance of men and women is an important factor. As mentioned, even being here right now, there's probably like 70 to 30 ratio, 30% women and 70% men. And my wish would be to, especially in a setting that is highly focused on startups and innovation and running businesses, I would like to see more women in that community. You can also consider what is the percentage of the community that you can see being short-term residents, people that are coming for some time and then leaving, and maybe other people taking their place. This is an important factor that we saw made a big difference at Excel. At the same time, for my choices, I would like to see at least 20% of people that don't live there permanently to come and have this fresh perspective on the community and bring some inspiration. Any thoughts that any of you wants to share about this point, about your community demographic?
Maybe I can add, like for me, yes, like demographic is important, especially gender, age, it's okay, but it's not the most important thing, I think. So every human is unique, every human has a different character. So I'm trying to think in a different way. And what I learned from EDE is this 4 main dimension chart. So to keep this like social regeneration, economic, ecologic, and cultural. So I just wanted to separate them first for the key roles, but also for the gender and age. Like it should be balanced, of course, like 40%, 60%. Yeah.
Do you have a link to a resource that you're referring? I would love to.
I can put some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. That would
Yeah.
be great. Yeah, the Community Alchemy guide is a crowdsourced guide. And so this we put a skeleton and outline 10 steps of the journey and put quite a bit of resources that we found on the way and realized for ourselves from personal experience. At the same time, there's a lot of people contributing to that guide. And so the intention is to make it more robust over time and have more perspectives. So yeah, we'd love for you, Jem, to share. And any of you, really, if you have any resources that seem valuable to you for any of the steps that we're going to be going through, please add them to the Community Alchemy guide. Okay, you guys, how are we feeling? How are we feeling? Jem, what do you mean by 20% cultural reach responsible?
I separated them for the key roles actually, and What I learned from the EDE last year is the social sustainability part is the most important part. The other parts are kind of technical parts. So, and how can I say? What runs the community is for me the human relation. So if there's a community, we should work more on that side, I think. So there should be some responsibles about the social sustainability part, and yeah.
Okay, cool. Cool. So this process, it's again the first iteration. You can keep on adding thoughts to that. Please transfer the thoughts into the agent workbook so you have it in one place, and you can always look in order. What are the things that you're imagining for your community? Another important thing in the recruitment journey are the requirements. So these are really the non-negotiables that you expect your community members to fulfill in order for them to become members of the community. So some examples are 3 personal recommendations from already existing community members. You have to have $1,000 in savings in order to ensure that you will be able to pay the annual fee. Just as an example, you have to have some form of documentation, like an ID, or maybe you have to have a residency in a specific country. Interested to know what would be the requirements for you. I saw Nicole added vegan or vegetarian. That's a really cool one and an important one. Again, at Eggshell, it caused some conflict between the vision holders because one of them is vegetarian and didn't really wish for meat to be cooked in the shared kitchen. Versus the other vision holder didn't really mind that. And so that was a conflict point in different moments. And for people that are joining the community as well, it might be a challenge to not be able to cook meat in the shared kitchen. You can do that in your own, or maybe in some communities you can't. You cannot even bring meat into the community. So these are all fair points that need to be established in order to avoid conflict in the future and really have the aligned demographic of humans in your community. Any thoughts that you guys have as you're filling it in, please feel free to share. We can also just be co-working in silence. So Nick. And that's a subject to change over time, right? Like sometimes we focus too much on creating this a complete vision in the beginning, and probably some things will reveal themselves on the way, like the vegan and vegetarian requirement. It turned out to be a really important one, even though in the beginning you might think that, oh, it's fine, we can figure it out. It's good to have that, and the requirements will be reflected in the agreements that you create for your community. And so probably the community members will be signing a set of agreements as they will be joining the community, which we will be talking about in a second, in the screening process and the onboarding process for community members.
Yeah, and just a note on that, like things like that, like lifestyle, if it's central to the vision of the community, such as being a plant-based community, then it's really important. If it's not as central, it just, things like that need to translate to community agreements. Like, for example, of course, there can be meat eaters, but like the agreement is to not cook meat in the shared kitchen, or like these are certain utensils that we do and do not use. And depending on the type of people, and you know, if they uphold that, then that is sort of, some people make that decision just to like minimize the chance that those agreements will be violated. But it's not saying, we're not telling you, or that you shouldn't consult other people to be like, yeah, just create a community of people like just like you, because then it's homogenous and it's boring. So like we're towing this line of like diversity, which we kind of try to address in demographics, but also like what are the unifying principles and the requirements to join the community for it to actually uphold the vision of the community. And that's one example of like, well, it's just easier and minimizes conflict to kind of screen for people who already lead this type of lifestyle habit or are already active, you know, unless you can stipulate, for example, some communities do choose to be like a rehabilitation center, for example. Or I was reading recently about a co-living project in San Francisco that is for people who were previously incarcerated, but it's not 100% just people who have been in prison. It's like a mix. So it's like the intention of the project is to give people a second life, but also not just be around other people who are incarcerated, but like integrate back into a normal life and have relationships with people who haven't been incarcerated. So that's like one example of like how you can have, you know, requirements, but not have like fully just be surrounded people exactly like you.
Yeah, good point. Okay, the screening process, what is the process a new member has to follow to be approved by the community? So this is something that is based on the requirements, and it's before the onboarding process. So this is not really a moment where you submit a community member and they start their journey. It's before, to make sure they fulfill the requirements. And so examples of that is a call with recruitment leads, call with 3 random community members, 3 in-person events at a community. I would say like filling in a questionnaire to reduce the workload of doing that on a call.
I completely agree. Whether you're starting a community or you're helping someone to start a community, a regenerative neighborhood, you will find sometimes people just randomly reach out and be like, how do I join? How do I join? They want to know, where is it? How do I do it? How do I get there? But they're not fully aligned. I heard a story once of like a community project in the US, and this lady had like packed up all her stuff, like sold her house or something, and just showed up at a community, like not even letting them know that she was going to show up, not even requesting a tour, you know, and just like, hi, I'm here, I'm ready to live here. So having ways also of people getting in contact with you ahead of time, and screening a little bit before just like divulging information or having it very clear. You know, schedule a tour or schedule like a very clear outline process. Fill out this questionnaire. We'll have a video call. You can schedule an in-person tour. That sort of process is very helpful. And we, surprise, surprise, we outline that in the guide. But you get to choose here which elements of the screening process you would like to use.
Right. I think it's really valuable for neighborhoods that are seeking new community members to hold open events where you can really do the screening process as you meet people in person, especially because you're gonna be living together potentially. So having that in-person meeting, even if the first step is filling in a questionnaire just to make sure that the requirements are fulfilled, still having an in-person meeting or at least a couple of calls is really valuable to see if the person is really aligned with the vision of the neighborhood. A lot of people are not really ready for that lifestyle. Something that Nicole mentioned before is that it's important to make sure that they know what the mission statement is, and they're also familiar with living with other people. It is a challenge to do that if this is not something that you're used to. And so right now we're going to talk about the onboarding process, and for me, definitely a really important one is kind of like the trial for community members, and it's both for you as a vision holder and for the community member, because oftentimes it can turn out that this is not really a place for them, and this is not really the lifestyle that they want to live, because sometimes we romanticize what community is. And so it's, I think, a really important step of the journey to have this window of time, whatever the vision holder chooses, for how long, to kind of, for both sides to see if this is the fit. Also making sure what the agreements of the community are in that step of the journey is really, really important. And I would say probably requesting the community member to sign these agreements in order to confirm that they are familiar with these. And then potentially in the moment of conflict, you have a very clear resolution of that. We're going to be talking about community agreements and governance on the next call. And so this is a really important one. I think sometimes what we observe is that when people choose to live together, again, there's a lot of faith and hope that we're going to figure it out, and it's strictly verbal and very emotional. And I think it's smart to assume that circumstances change and people change, and sometimes without clear agreements, it can get really, really messy. And our realities are very subjective. And so have it as the middle ground on paper is really important. So I think the onboarding process should really involve onboarding community members to the values and agreements.
Yeah, on that note, some things like requirements or part of the screening process can involve like how ready is someone to move to or create community, how available they are, but also like, are they ready to move to a community now? Because you might not be ready. Like they're like, I'm looking for a place now. And that might not actually fit your timeline. 6 months, 3 months, I'm ready to move to a community in a year. That's sort of my plan. And I'm going to be transitioning. Getting to know like the stage that they're at in their personal journey will be very helpful to you, because you might be talking about it, but then they're like, oh, actually I have, a year and I have these doctorate appointments and I need to, go to these. That was sort of kind of the content of a conversation I had with someone when I was inviting them to come live in a community with me. They're like, I have some, personal issues to attend to. I'm not quite ready, but I'll be ready now. So that is also just an example of something that could be a requirement that is not typically thought of. Like their timeline, how ready they are, what stage of life they're at, all things to consider.
Any reflections on that topic? We have about 10 minutes from now, we want to have at least like 6 minutes at the end of the call to do a little demo and show you how to use the resources that we already have. So yeah, would love to collect some closing thoughts on that topic and closing when it comes to this container. But really encourage you guys to keep on brainstorming that for yourself and then transfer it to the workbook. Any thoughts? Okay, you guys are finishing off. Let's see who did that. 30 to 90-day trial period for deep high intensity interaction. Yes, super agree with that. Yeah, it's a good one. Conflict resolution, community living, right? You can also design and serve workshops at your place for people as an onboarding process during the trial period. This is something that you need to accomplish, like a conflict resolution training. Okay, you guys, I encourage you to keep on going. Oscar is gonna do a little tribes demo right now to show you the resources on the tribes platform. Wanna take over? What do you wanna show?
I don't know. Sorry, my mind is somewhere else. I'm like in the middle of reading something else.
Okay. You mentioned you wanna do a tribes demonstration?
Sorry, we have about 5 minutes. No, let's field some questions. This section is, we would just display like how it's displayed on the platform, but that's all evolving. We're gonna be taking the platform offline for a few days, for like a day or two while we upgrade the form process to match what we're learning here in the course and how that will directly reflect on the platform in the next involvement. I guess, yeah, we can.
I mean, you don't have to. It was just a request from your side.
Is it-
And I'm trying to.
Okay, we're sharing
monitor
the
them.
platform right now. Just a quick peek. I guess every call we can do, right? The tribes platform is intended to, oh, we don't have access to it right now.
Oh, it was working
Yeah,
before.
it's not working.
Oh, again,
We'll do
we
it.
have some VPN challenges on our site, and with the router that we have, it was working like 1 hour ago. That's quite strange. Oh, really? Okay. Well, you guys, tribes demo is not happening, but I encourage you to go to the Community Alchemy guide. You have the section number 2 and a bunch of other resources, probably some things that we didn't have time to mention in that session. So, and gem to you and any of you really that has any valuable resources on this topic, please feel free to add that. Again, it's a crowdsourced guide that is ever evolving based on the input of everybody that touches it. So really seeking to have your brain on that.
And
I'm
then just
curious what offboarding process is.
yes, so that was actually what I was gonna follow up with, just to kind of close, just because it's an often overlooked part of it. People kind of focus on like, how do I attract the right people? How do I attract the right people? But equally as important, they might be the right people in the beginning, but things change, or you didn't have a strong enough onboarding screening process to begin with. And you need to either, get rid of a problematic community member, or you're even something neutral and positive in that you're ready to phase out investors and like pay them back and like, okay, give them their ROI, but also like, phase them out of being invested in the project, because you're now seeking to be like more autonomous and not having to answer to them essentially. So in the guide, we have an entire section on offboarding processes. And it starts out with identifying the things that you need to know what triggers or what kind of things when they happen are worth like basically initiating an offboarding process. And so we have the elements of an offboarding process, as well as example offboarding situations, but you need to have clear rules about what behavior will cause you to be dismissed from the community. You can implement a warning system, and you review after a set amount of time if community members are fulfilling their agreements or not. And you can have very clear agreements that's like, oh, it's okay if the person doesn't meet their like quota of commitment here, but this kind of behavior is like really egregious. So we do follow up on that. So there are like a lot of different ways to approach the community offboarding processes there. And then also planning for situations like old age or mental health or inability to participate, like with disability. Not saying that people as they grow older can't be taken care of in community, but I was reading of an example of like a really tight-knit community, intentional community, that one of their members was like growing old, and like the dementia was actually really, really, really tough on the community, and no one was prepared or capable or had the available time to do the necessary caretaking. So people get to a certain age that there is a lot of medical care required. So this is just a decision that you can make. It's not required that your community, you know, take care of all of its members, although it's like recommended, because that's what we're trying to create, like the tribal sense of caring and being cared for long into our old age. But sometimes there are things like, you know, people die or they go bankrupt and they can't participate economically in the community at all. Someone might have an accident and be handicapped, and so these are not necessarily reasons to say goodbye. Just more so like what to do in situations like that. Like maybe the community would then just like chip in to pay to send that member to a retirement home where there are professional caretakers. It's totally contextual, totally depends on the unique community. But these are situations that people don't typically think about what action they want to take when it happens, including like a community member owns a house, that they pass away and their children inherited, and the children are not, you know, aligned with the community values. So like what to do in that sense, like, you know, and if you put a stipulation in the contract ahead of time that the community reserves the right to, you know, make the children like sell the house and liquidate the asset if they don't align with certain requirements. If you have that, it's just legal security if you put that ahead of time, because you've thought about it, because you're like, well, wow, if we have children that don't align, like, or legacy inheritors that don't align, we want to be able to reserve the right as a community to determine who has ownership of property or land or housing in our community. So those are just some examples of how we thought of the offboarding process. It's still like very much a developing thing for us as well. Like I know one of our friends is designing an offboarding process for a community. So we want to continue to provide like really rich resources on that topic. But it's still refining because there's a lot of aspects involved. Thoughts? What would you guys say, like, that if someone did this, I wouldn't want them anymore?
No, criminal offenses, you know, like if anybody goes really beyond the law and it does any criminal conduct, just bye-bye, no? So I think it's like deal breakers.
Yeah, I would say violating the community agreements once you sign them in the onboarding process and you agree that this is how we relate to each other. If you consciously choose not to respect these, this is definitely an indication, or maybe there should be an established escalation process for these types of situations where you violate them once, and maybe the second time is the moment where you just say goodbye to a person, or maybe the first time is enough right? So these are all things that should be discussed and probably will be custom for each of the communities, and will be evolving and dealing with different situations that will probably affect the process as well.
Yeah, and I also wanted to share compliance. Like when I say someone that has a criminal conduct or something, I mean, that should be the lowest degree acceptable, if at all. Uh, because when you come, so when you are within the law, you are just one step ahead of being a delinquent, which is not the distance that I would want, or that I keep myself as part of a like healthy community. So I would expect really higher standards, not just like criminal conduct. I think that what Sonia says about sticking to the community guidelines, the community culture, is a big part of it. And even though I do believe in reconciliation and how people can and communities can reconcile and bring about and transform or transcend uh, the difficult situations, it would be something that you would have to kind of go through it, like if you break a rule, if you don't do something, it's not just okay, you're kicked out and you're off the curb, because I feel that can be very inhumane. But it would be more like, okay, then you need to compensate and be very smart about it, like go to certain workshops or take certain therapy or guidelines or something in that sense. Because if anybody breaks the rules, if we are all sticking to this tribal family kind of big family kind of mentality, because the last thing you would want is to just kick your brother or kick your sister out to the street because they had their worst 5 minutes with you, like.
Definitely, that's where having like a warning system, or also categorizing like the severity of every offense. Like this is something that, is very serious. We have a zero tolerance policy on, sexual assault or assault in general. Then that enough is like immediate, like you can have a review process, like an assessment of like, okay, this happened. How willing is this person to like, understand what they did? Because I've seen situations, for example, of like very ambiguous situations of sexual assault in community, and like actually where the supposed assailant was not as guilty, but like things can, get kind of twisted. So you can see, I dropped a link in the chat to our offboarding process we had, or that I sat down and developed with community members while we were at Eggshell. Because we did have to say goodbye to a community member that was like lingering, that was not contributing to a positive environment so much. So we had to sit down because they didn't have any sort of offboarding process. And the majority of like the main community members got together and said, hey, this is how we're going to say goodbye to the person. This is also something that when you consider what decision-making rights do certain community members have, we didn't involve everybody in the decision-making process to get rid of this person. It was more so like just a long-term residents, and like assessing like, okay, how. Oh, Oscar's birthday is next session, so I'm just seeing that. Tuesday. Oscar, we are officially not even required to show up. Anyways, yes. So that's just an example of how you can put different types of offenses into like, okay, when this happens, we do this. This, it's gray space. We're open to like just sitting down and see if the person's willing to grow and willing to change with anything. Like you don't want to excommunicate people just because they like did one wrong thing. So that helps to categorize the types of reasons you want to say goodbye to people. I hope that clarified. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, and Nicole, I wanted to share that one of the things, this is a lot to do with justice, and like private justice systems in neighborhoods, communities, like the ones that we are intervening and designing. And it's a part of it that we come from transactional justice. And that has been proved to be a very limited paradigm that makes more damage to the community and to the person more than the harm it avoids or the compensation it provides to it. And there's this very famous concept called restorative justice or regenerative justice, essentially, where, first of all, it involves the community. And I think that the best example of this was in the post-apartheid South Africa, and they integrated tribal justice mechanisms that would be enabled before the colonial system came in, where the community elder would be the judge. It wouldn't be like someone out of the community. It would be someone within the community that would be enacted as judge because of the time they had been there, or the age they had and the wisdom that that entails. And uh, they would bring together the victim and the perpetrator in such a manner where they bring their families in and involve them and talk it through. So it's like very soft justice, and it allows for a way easier, for a way better path to not only asking for forgiveness, but forgiving, which is what you essentially want after there's been, especially a very deep transgression in the community that can be traumatic or that can like break things apart. You want to bring that community together. So you want it to have mechanisms where justice not doesn't just cut through, but heals it back together. And these were called gachaca courts, and they were a court system where they would sit on the grass as a tribe, and the people involved would come out, and everybody would like lend themselves to figuring how they were responsible for this behavior, or how they would be responsible to avoiding this behavior. And I'll write down the name. It's South African, so let me Google it first.
Yeah, please share the resources for that. That's really interesting.
Any kind of final thoughts on that as we prepare to say goodbye?
Yeah.
No. I'm trying to open the offboarding process right now, but it says I'm getting a not found.
I have it.
Here,
I'm sharing my screen right now, and I'm sharing the offboarding process in the Community Alchemy guide. Is this
Okay.
is this where you're looking for?
Here. I just transferred it to a document just because like Notion, I think, is sometimes limited in some ways. I just created a document for the community operating process.
Yeah, you can find the link in the agent portal document, which is I linked at the end of and here, right? You can go there and access it. Community Alchemy guide.
What's the link that you were going to that didn't work, Mike?
It was the Notion link, the top of the chat.
Notion link on the top of the chat.
Where is that coming from?
That was coming from our old Notion on like our community lab Notion.
Oh.
Where is that link?
It's in the top of the chat, but I transferred over the same exact offboarding process. It's in the Community Alchemy guide now, linked under resources in the offboarding process section. And then also it's in the chat, the Zoom chat right now, as a link to a Google Doc.
Gotcha.
And then also it's in the chat right now as a link to a Google Doc. And then also it's in the chat right now as a link to a Google Doc. And then also it's in the chat right now as a link to a Google Doc. And then also it's in the chat right now as a link to a Google Doc. And then also it's in the chat right now as a link to a Google Doc. And then also it's in the chat right now as a link to a Google Doc. And then also it's in the chat right now as a link to a Google Doc. And then also it's in the chat right now as a link to a Google Doc. And then also it's in the chat right now as a link to a Google Doc. And then also it's in the chat right now as a link to a Google Doc. And then also it's in the chat right now as a link to a Google Doc. And then also it's in the chat right now as a link to a Google Doc. And then also it's in the chat right now as a link to a Google Doc. And then also it's in the chat right now as a link to a Google Doc. And then also it's in the chat right now as a link to a Google Doc. And then also it's in the chat right
Yeah, you can also find it
Awesome.
at the top of the Miro board if you want. Just like...
I got it open. Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, it's clear that finding out how to not just attract but screen the correct people into the community is very important, and how to screen them out, on or off board them. So I like that we have resources now for both of those things.
Okay, you guys, thank you so much for today's call. I really like that we're trying to be as concise as possible, and we're still running out of time because you guys have so much good stuff to share. Let's keep this conversation going in the Telegram chat. We have a Telegram chat now that we can dump our thoughts in, and so if you think about anything connected to that session or any other, please share your thoughts in there, and we can expand on that. We can also include that in the next Miro boards and the design, so it responds more to your needs and the things that you feel you need more resources about.
Awesome. Thank you for
Awesome.
leading.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank
Everybody.
you guys. Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you so much, you
Thank
guys.
you, guys.
See you guys.
Oh wait, let's take a photo. Let's take a photo.
Oh yeah. Okay. Woo.
Yippee!
Wait.
Hey. Down ducks out.
Okay. Yeah. Second. Okay.
Are we ready? Oh.
Okay, you guys.
Where are you going?
Oh, Jamie.
Ah!
Here.
Mine
No,
am I not on the call?
no, you're not.
Yeah,
Nobody
let's
can
start.
see you.
it's weird.
Oh
Okay.
my goodness, she looks so happy. Hello. Smile.
Ah, she
Oh
looks
my
just like my
goodness.
dog in Poland. Her
She's
name
our
is
favorite
Mira.
agent besides Antoni's child.
Okay,
I
you
saw
guys.
some
Yeah,
I saw some assignments in one of the documents.
assignments.
I forget which document it was.
Oh
The
yeah,
agent
so
portal.
yeah, we want to start doing like a practical like application of exploring land projects on the platform. One of the big help that projects usually need is getting their content to public hands, be that on social media or through the Tribes platform, which we're working to grow. Some of the homework assignments were to look through the land projects that are in there and choose 1, 2, or 3 of your favorite ones based on kind of your level of work exchange for the course. We will be requesting that you guys go to their main Instagram or channel, whatever it is, it should be in their bio, and share their most recent like favorite post of yours that you feel describes this project to a potential new member, right? Nicole's research showed that most projects are requesting support with finding and attracting and bringing in aligned new members. So if you were a new member and you were looking at one of these projects, you're like, oh, this post makes me want to go there and visit and see more about it. This is a good piece of information for us as well as consultants, so we get an idea of what kind of content speaks to potential community members. So either you guys have a project that you know of that isn't on the platform. If that's the case, we would invite you to onboard it to the platform as one of the tasks. So that's one of them, engaging with projects on the platform and sharing their content on the platform. In later weeks, we will be requesting that you connect with the vision holding team, so you see what that journey looks like. And this is part of the kind of a client relations journey, finding projects out there and finding a way to get in touch with them and start a communication channel with them. Reaching out to them, messaging them on their socials, finding an email and messaging them. What we have in Advantage is we have a platform where we're going to share, hey, your profile is live on here already. We would love for you to review the information and take over the page. So that'll be kind of the assignment coming up.
Sweet.
Mhm.
Cool. See you guys.
Hey, guys.
All
talk
right.
soon.
Thanks for Oscar. See you guys. Maybe see you not next week, Oscar.
I'll be here. I'll be here. I love it.
Okay,
Best
great.
birthday gift.
All right, take care, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone. What's up?
Hello, what's up?
That was
okay,
a good session.
Yeah. Yeah, that was good. That one's like it's like pretty subjective. I think reviewing the difference between requirements and screening and onboarding is important. And for them to see examples of other people's onboarding could be good. Like, so these are resources that need to be added.
I don't know if you've seen them, but there's like there's an onboarding process forum on tribes. I think it's in community membership and agreements. And then there are like I posted a few there.
Yeah, for some reason we can't log into tribes from this router in our house sometimes. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It's super weird.
I could like I think maybe not today in the morning, but
I could
yesterday.
yesterday. I
evening,
could
yeah.
yesterday, but this morning I can't for some reason. It's so weird.
Oh.
Yeah, maybe what I can do, you're saying that there should be like a good distinction between requirements, onboarding, and like screening.
Yeah, I've been
'Cause,
like a few like sentences that help
'cause-
differentiate between
yeah.
the
Because I think where's the requirements? The recruitment journey. Yeah, the recruitment journey. So under recruitment journey, I'm gonna add that there are like 3 components. The screening, the requirements, the screening, and then the onboarding. Because like the requirements is work that you do, pre-work, basically to understand. The screening process is weeding out anybody who's not aligned, and the onboarding process is welcoming people who are aligned.
Right. Yeah. Okay. No, just go. Okay, cool. Okay, how's your journey? You're in Mexico now?
Yeah, I'm thrilled. I really like my apartment. I'm like, it's a really like quiet space, like more removed from the activity. So I'm just gonna be like hermiting here and working on things that matter to me. It was kind of a leap of faith because all I saw were pictures and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna show up. I'm not even gonna bother staying anywhere else. I'm just gonna show up. And I really like it. It's cute. It's got a kitchen, a blender, like a great bathroom, cute bedroom, a lot of like natural wood furniture. So it's nice. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. Just everything is mindset,
Like,
you know?
yeah, I mean, flying over Oaxaca, I just saw like nothing, like just as many trees, if not more, just as much green as I saw buildings, you know, like just as much green canopy as I saw roof buildings, which made me really happy.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, it's nice to be in a nature-rich place.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure. Okay, I have a few things I'm like juggling right now in my mind. Would like to do a check-in. I have like some updates that I want to share with you, and in general, where like a lot of stuff is evolving and lots of thoughts going through my mind.
Yeah, I can tell you that you're in that process.
Yeah. Lots of like moving components, lots of like just like I'm just like honing down so I can like focus on one thing, because there'll be like some changes happening with what I'm working on, how I'm working on it, and yeah, I'm like still piecing all that together. We have a meeting here at like 3 today, 3:30. Okay, that's in like 2 hours. We're on the same time zone. Are you earlier than us?
It's 1:21 right now, so I think we're on the same time zone now. So that's nice.
Okay, so we have like a meeting at 3:30, then we have a
Pitch competition.
a pitch thing that we're gonna be like doing the mycelium board at. That'll end at like 5 or 6, I believe. Builders update, yeah, that's 5:30. So maybe like 6, 7, maybe this evening we can do like a short check-in. Or I'll text you in like an hour. What time is it now? 1:30, 2:30? Yeah, like 2:30, I'll text you in like an hour.
Okay, anything you want to check in really quickly about? I'm just like, I also have quite a few things on my mind, like juggling, you know, which I want to prioritize. I spent time this morning adding a lot to the guide. I think the best thing is to get ahead and start organizing also like section 3, and adding resources there. I'm just making sure it's like all consistent. I'm like starting to add like little question mark emojis to like delineate when there's a question, you know, that's being asked.
Like,
Let me
I
see.
think the question mark emoji with like the blue highlight is cool, right? We have, for example, questions in the agent book or questions that are on the platform, and these are questions that need to be answered. I think the flow of the guide should be like questions delineated in blue are workup questions that lead to answering the question in the black box, for example, is one. One like format rich thing, because there'll be other questions as well that maybe have a little bit to do with it, but not so much to do with it. Everything kind of builds on itself, so everything has to do with everything technically. But there are definitely like some questions or things that help you answer the question in the black box. That is like the key thing that needs to be shared on the platform or your
Yeah, like
business.
the way that I see it is that there's like generative questions or guiding questions, and then there's like definitive questions that like have a definitive answer, like exploratory that helps you arrive at the definitive questions.
Right. Definitive in the black box, and those are the ones that match the agent book. And they will match the platform, the Talk with Yakir today. So like talk to him today, like we have a follow-up call tomorrow about like what it looks like to maybe gut the platform and like the land projects that are in there, and just like change the way that everything's uploaded, and we'll just have to upload projects all over again.
That's fine.
Could be an option. It'll be like a tag team thing that, right, everyone will take on. I'm gonna recruit the agents as well to do it, and each of them onboard 3 projects per week. That's already what 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 more weeks. That's like 30 projects. Or more like, yeah, like 30 projects plus we each upload 5.
We would just have to note, for example, the communities that have onboarded themselves, we note who the admin is, we recreate the profile, and then we link it, like we make them admin again. Just so it's like seamless.
Yeah. I'm working on like pulling that information onto a CSV, so we have the ones that we don't have. Like, there's definitely ones we don't have on our Airtable that have been uploaded.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that I've seen. So like that's gonna be like a back and forth check thing that we have to do. Potentially we can. Yeah, I'm gonna think about that. It's something I have to still process. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, Nicole, I'd love you to make your list of like the things that are priority for you to work on, right? Removing anything, like any requests, any like things coming from my end. Like let's not put marketing on there. I'm going through like a marketing existential crisis right now of like our branding, how we present ourselves, who are we talking to, who is the audience that like is drawn to what we're doing. And in a nutshell, like it's not it for me, personally speaking. Like being here with the people that I'm here, this is the people I want to communicate to. This is the people I want to spend my time with. This is the audience that I'm seeking to build a product for. With a lot of the stuff that I'm going through and in my mind about, right? Again, I've been saying it from the start. It's like, I'm building a tech startup. I'm building for an audience. Like one realization I made is like, we don't need to sell environmentalism and sustainability to the hippies and environmentalists. It's like redundant. It's like beating a dead horse. It's pointless. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of effort. We need to enter this demographic that is like the techie money audience, doers in the world, who I consider now to be like in this world of what we're working with, eco villages, to the other side of it, a brand we made, regenerative neighborhoods, which is like in the middle, to the other side, which is purely network states. Right? Again, physical land projects with people, startup societies. This is like the, let's call it the gambit,
This is
range.
okay. So this is exactly the terminology that I feel strongest about. The one that startup society, the one that I shared in the chat, is like it covers everything at every scale. I feel it doesn't matter if you're building like a small little enclave for you and some people who are aligned. If you're doing it in the innovative way, you are reinventing society. Like you are seeing what lacks in society and like redesigning it at a local scale. And that could be local scale or international, micronation, networked nations, networked neighborhoods. So like scale doesn't matter to me as much. Like neighborhood is a scale. I'm really interested in startup societies, because like startup city to me is like a really cool concept, but city limits it by scale. I like want to start using the terminology startup society.
Yeah, so like more of what I'm gonna share on Friday, or like I'm still like ideating, is like kind of a rebrand, potentially not a rebrand, but leaving Regen Tribe Collective as is, in its like image that it is, and continue to share education stuff. We've discussed like a new branch that is different focus, different thing. Regen Tribe staying is like our start, where we came from, and then starting a more like techie, forward-facing branch towards this demographic of like startup society, network states, this world. Even a new Instagram, right, which will not have anywhere near as like the kind of content that we're doing now. It'll be different. It'll be more like tweets that I screenshot and I repost, kind of like what I did yesterday on like the story, if you saw it. I'm looking at other accounts that people like follow in this space and what they do. So like I'm working on what a marketing strategy for that would look like. Again, it's going to be super low profile. I'm realizing a big gap as well in like my decision making with money, of like, I'm like nickel and diming developers when like the product I want to create is a tech platform. And I'm spending on like, when we were in Mexico, on like funding Carla for an apartment, or like even, you know, whatever, anything else that I'm spending money on besides saying whatever money I have goes to build a good platform. And so this is kind of all where my mind has been in these last couple of days, and like a restructuring of my process and what needs to happen from where we are with Regen Tribe as a collective to what's going to sprout from this, both with people here and like my personal interest and energy and efforts and where that's going. It'll be like a nice talk tomorrow with all of us about like what's going on, how everybody's feeling about it. Right. So with that, I invite you to consider like, you're Nicole, and this is the space that what space are you interested in? Right. I shared at the beginning, like you've heard this journey of like, I'm not at the place where I'm hiring like employees to do stuff. I'm at the place where I'm looking for people that are co-founder types that are passionate about the things they're passionate about. And if that aligns with what we're passionate about and it can help, I'm happy to share money with that in that way. Like what happened with Nina, right? Employee mindset didn't work out. The grief I've had with Julia a little bit feels like employee mindset sometimes, where she's like not really there. I have to like make stuff up for her to do. I realize that that's consuming a lot of my bandwidth in the last, let's say, since Turkey. I've realized that like my hat that I've been wearing more than my entrepreneur, I'm creating something, startup thing, has been like managerial hat. Keeping up with what everybody else is doing, and like that doesn't feel great. Plus, like, so it's like time I'm consuming, plus resources financially that are being consumed, that I'm reevaluating a lot. And so I'd love you to make a list of like the things that you love working on. Like, what do you want this to be? In like, what do you want to build? Right? We're a collective. We're each independent, autonomous entrepreneurs, and we're all working on our things. And if they align, cool, we work really closely. And if they don't align so much, cool, we work kind of loosely together. So this is kind of the discussion that's like been in my mind a lot, like observing how the team here works, and everyone's kind of like independent, and there's like kind of a central cell that ideate stuff, but everyone is expected to be their own leader and do their own things. I think is rubbing off on me a little bit. And yeah, that like realization that I've been not so driven to like do the things and be on the computer all the time because I've been like processing things, and also realizing maybe like the managerial hat has been weighing on me of like keeping tabs of stuff that isn't feeding the fire I want to build, right? Like gathering of the tribes doesn't feed the fire I want to build at all. Stressing about a paid online course doesn't really feed the fire I want to build.
No, I mean,
hosting-
it's useful, for example, like the agent program, it's useful for our process, but like, like I don't necessarily want to be, I feel like it's useful, but it's not where I want to continue to do. Like I would not do this again.
It's useful, right? So the agent
like what we can do is translate this into like part of our training process when we're training people to be part of our organization and our like incorporated entity, right? But like not necessarily something that we want to try and peddle to people to like learn about.
Right, like I'm not doing this to sell a course, is what I mean. Sharing the content online for free and putting it out there is the best kind of marketing and publicity and videos and stuff we can put out there. Like the in-person course that you're planning for 30 days and all of that, I like speaking, I've been really reflecting. I don't want anything to do with the logistics of booking a place, being in person with people for 30 days to teach them a thing. The only benefit to doing all of that is to generate some revenue. And realistically speaking, when you have 5 other people planning it and guests that you're going to bring in, you're not going to make any money anyways. You're going to spend, how many calls have you had now planning that thing? Just, I'm observing you and I'm considering, okay, is that something I would spend time on? And the answer is definitely not. Absolutely not. So I've been reflecting a lot on like, what are we as a team, independent components, what's being worked on? Where is time being spent? And right, this is part of the cutting the fat conversation of observing everything, all of these cards on the Asana board and all the things that are being done and consuming our bandwidth. What can be slimmed and what can be like done less or focused more on, or all of this, or just removing stuff from my plate that I don't want to think about or do or be involved in those ways.
I would really appreciate that, because I feel like a lot of our operations sometimes are consumed with like unnecessary things, or like, for example, like a last minute agent program like involves us to create like, you know, things to like support them, like the agent portal document and this document, that document, when like we still need to focus on internal documentation, even
So, like
completing that. So like things like that are like an example of what feels
the best thing about the agent program is that it made me open the alchemy guide and realize how not there the alchemy guide is. It made me realize how it's become an outline that we had a year ago, and now this outline has gotten a bit more organized, which is good, and has some structure now, which is also good, and we've dumped content on there, which is also good, and now we're working on making it functional versus content dump. And for that, the agent program has been great. Getting people activated, right, from the result of this, like if you even get one agent that sticks around and can take on weight, like this project Julia is suggesting, if one person, responsible, professional, stays on and becomes like someone interested in taking on work in that way, that would be cool. Again, I think maybe I didn't communicate clearly. The agent program thing is functional. I just don't want what I don't align with is the headache or pressure of it being a paid course that has to be some level of like, Sonia was like stressing out about it. And I'm like, girl, stress. You're stressing because you think people are paying for the thing. Like, no, it's a free thing we're giving off. We put a value to it and let everyone come in for free anyways, just so we could get work out of people. It's just a leveraging tool, right? Which is totally different with an in-person course, which maybe makes sense. Like, did you at any time feel like you were not really confident with the alchemy guide? Like, is this why you didn't tell Nick and everyone else that the alchemy guide was like a basis for the content? Based on that meeting I joined, it felt like they had no idea we were going to use the alchemy guide as the content source for this mastermind thing that you were doing.
Yeah, so a couple points on that. For the mastermind, because of the change in like when it's going to be done, I'm really not dedicating as many hours to it, especially because it sounds like also reevaluating in-person events is like high priority for us, right? And it's not that I didn't feel confident about it, it's just that like I don't think that like Nico particularly had been super present about it. And we literally had an outline in the Miro and I was like, and these are the 10 steps and this is, like this is what it's based on. And I think it's like, I've had interactions with him in particular of just not like him for some reason, like not taking me seriously or like being like strangely like I've been mansplained to him a little bit before. So it's like, even when I present something like that and I previously presented it, his like, oh, like, what's this? Or